Good afternoon. Ever since the Student Government Association voted to not fund Sex Week, it has become a hot topic of conversation here in the Johnson City area. So in order to keep our listeners more informed in a more multimedia format, we have decided to do a hangout and broadcast live and have Max Carwile, the lead organizer of the Sex Week event, come in and answer your questions live right here on the East Tennesseans YouTube channel. You can go back and view it any time too. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to lead Sex Week organizer, Max Carwile. Max.
So, hi, I am one of the organizers coordinating this whole event. It's a bunch of different student organizations, departments, programs, everything getting together to organize this. We're trying to get as many people involved to try and make this a diverse ETSU event where there's a lot of different input going on. So it's not too late if your organization does want to get involved in the planning committee meetings. We meet every other week at 11:30 a.m. in Colt Meeting Room 6. Our most recent meeting was yesterday, which plenty of things happened, so that was a pretty exciting one. For those who are curious, we did do a second vote on whether or not to keep the Sex Week name, and we did, as one member of the committee brought up, regardless of what the week is actually called, students are just going to keep calling it Sex Week or that Sex Week or whatever, so might as well be concise. And it was also pointed out that if we're too scared to have the word sex in the title of our event, that kind of proves the event needs to happen if people can't even say such a simple anatomical word. So with that in mind, I will answer some of these lovely questions that you all have provided. The first one being, what programming will be offered as a part of Sex Week? We have a lot of great things scheduled. There's about 15 to 20 different events that are on the list right now, with some adjustments being made, and some are actual like scheduled events that you go to at one time, or some are like all-day HIV testing. But some of the specific programs have to do with like bringing in a sexologist to talk about sex from a professional standpoint. There's going to be an event on women of color and the history of sexual oppression, events on general sex education knowledge, how to talk to your healthcare professional about these complicated taboo subjects, an event on abstinence, an event on how gender plays into sexual oppression, double standards, purity shaming, that whole super fun thing. There's been a few different events by a bunch of different groups to try and make sure like everyone's having their own input. A lot of voices are represented. And so this whole list of events was just recently narrowed down from like 40 to this 15. So it's come a long way. Some other major events, we're hoping to get Jamar Rogers, who is on The Voice, to talk about living with HIV. We're hoping to do this really great healthy masculinity event and show a movie to kind of facilitate that discussion. We want to have like giveaways and door prizes at these events to try and draw students in, because as a student, I can assure you the word free really helps. So the next part of that one question is, how will said programming improve sexual knowledge? And then the goal is it'll affect a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, depending on your level of sexual knowledge, sexual readiness, anything. Like hopefully our abstinence event can help you if you want to be abstinent in your relationship and see ways to make that work. Hopefully our general sex ed info sessions and like the free condoms and brochures can help you with preventing sexually transmitted infections and unplanned pregnancies. Hopefully we can bring about more communication in relationships between partners to really get across what is a healthy relationship to you, what you want, and most importantly, what is consent. We want students to be able to know that they can say no. They have the right to say no, and they can empower themselves to say no, but also to learn how to say yes, how to talk about what you like, don't like, are comfortable with, want to try, how to even like ask someone out. We want students to feel empowered to be making their own decisions for what's best for them in their own lives. And this is something people don't talk about. It's something I, growing up in East Tennessee, definitely did not hear about in my high school, middle school, anything. The idea of learning about how to have a healthy relationship would have been wonderful to hear in high school, but unfortunately I didn't get that. And this offers students a new way to learn when they are adults, regardless of age, about a wide variety of topics depending on where they are. So not just the danger side of how to prevent STIs and sexual assault and everything like that, but also about how to increase your sexual knowledge to be happier and healthier. So, question number 2. Where are you in terms of raising the funding necessary to put on Sex Week, and how can people donate? So, ever since SGA decided to not fund the week, we put together a site called crowdrise.com/sexweek at ETSU, where people can donate anywhere from like $10 to $10,000 if they ever wanted to. And this is really beneficial, not just so that we can raise money, but it also shows that this is something that our community really wants and supports. They're willing to put their own hard-earned money into this event, which is really, putting your money where your mouth is. And it's really amazing because we've already raised 1/4 of our total goal, which is great. I mean, I've organized on this campus for really cheap before. I know we could make this event happen for like nothing, but with no money, it's hard to get the event as it should be. It's hard to get the speakers you want. It's hard to get food at events to bring people out. It's hard to get advertising to make sure everybody hears about it. It's hard to get all kinds of things to make this event as it truly should be. And for determining the amount of funding that we asked for and how much we need, we looked at what other student groups on this campus typically ask for weeks of this size, so that we're not asking for too much or too little. So by raising the full amount, we're making this event not only what it could be, but what it should be at the school, to be a proper ETSU style event. So for where we at, I'd say we're doing pretty well. This does not mean that we have given up on trying to get that funding from SGA, because there was nothing wrong with our application. We feel that we have a right to reapply and see how it goes. We filled out paperwork correctly. There's nothing wrong with our funding or anything. So we're gonna talk with some different student government officials, figure out exactly what the problem is, what we can do to make this an application. Student government does in fact pass. So that's not completely off the table. But if need be, we might host like fundraising events or concerts or anything if that may be necessary. So be on the lookout for that. There's also the potential of like a Sex Week preview at the end of the semester, possibly a downtown event where there'll be free condoms and maybe music as a kind of reminder, like, hey, this awesome thing is going on. If you want to get involved, we're looking for help. So be on the lookout for that. And question number 3, what are your thoughts on SGA President Doretha Benn's veto of the Sex Week resolution? I think that is incredible and amazing. I have known Doretha for, I guess, 2 or so years, and I've seen her really grow as a person, and I know her as someone really progressive, really amazing, and I know this is something that she supports, and I know that, especially now with this resolution, that she stands by the students and will make sure that they are not being silenced, they are not being bullied, and this further proves that she really stands behind us. 4, how is programming for ETSU Sex Week different than the Sex Week programming that resulted in state legislator taking action against UT? Well, one being that every campus event is different, just a general thing. 2 being that because we have that precedent of a controversial event, obviously when we started talking about this at ETSU, people were a little concerned. So we've had different members of the administration and staff and different people stepping in our planning committees, making their voice heard to make sure this whole event is very tasteful and appropriate, not sensational at all. So having that feedback from people who are very concerned has been incredibly helpful. Also, this is the first time it's ever been done at ETSU, so it feels a lot more like a trial run. We're only doing it for 3 days so we can make sure this is something students will actually attend and really want and everything. So that's one way it's different. And because it is our first time, we want to make sure it goes very smoothly. to make sure it can happen in the future. So we're trying to be extra careful with the kind of programming we have. And by this having like a wide range of really different topics, we can see students want to learn more about what they already know about and don't care about, things like that. It kind of feels like a little science project a little bit, but a really exciting one with lots of news cameras. Number 5, how did the student body respond to the Sex Week resolution before it was vetoed? That is an interesting question. From my experience, they did not respond very well. I received a ton of those to our official Sex Week accounts of students being completely outraged. This resolution made students feel that SGA thought they had the right to tell students what they could or couldn't do. And not only students, but the resolution doesn't specifically say student organizations, so it felt like they were trying to tell all of ETSU what they had the right to support or not support. Students, they came to me and they told me that it felt like bullying and being silenced, and it was very scary. It sets a very dangerous precedent for what we can or can't do at this university if our student government can just automatically say, no, we don't like the content of it. This doesn't apply to us. Why would we support it? It was very scary. Students were scared. It really gave them that push of we need to make sure this happens. This is important. So I'm once again incredibly glad that it was vetoed, because I think that's too dangerous of a precedent to have at this university, because who knows how that could be applied in the future. And 6, how will the funds be used? So it's pretty typical, the amount we asked for with other student groups, like stated before. There's a portion going to advertising, because, you know, I don't know if you know this, but ads in this here East Tennessee are pretty pricey. There's funding going to events that will have food, because since we want to have 15 events in such a short amount of time, we don't want students to have to pick between, do I eat or do I learn about a topic that could potentially save my life? So for events that are at like lunch or dinner time, we want to have food to try and draw the students in. We want to have giveaways and door prizes at our events, because I've seen different events like the Eco Earth Month and Heroes LGBTQI History Month do this, and it seems very effective as a way to draw the students in. There is funding going to 1 or 2 speakers, funding going to possibly showing a movie, and t-shirts. It's pretty much not an ETSU event without t-shirts, is what I've noticed in my 3 years here. So that's basically how they'll be used. One of our main goals of this event is to keep it local. I think that was one of the problems with other Sex Weeks, is bringing in people from all over the country instead of making it a local thing. Like, ETSU is such an amazing university. I have loved my time here. I've loved my time here, and I've learned so much. And everyone on the committee agrees. We want to showcase what ETSU really has to offer by making most of our events actually led by people here at ETSU, which is why we're not spending that much money on speakers and more spending money on highlighting what we already have. So with that.
Okay, we just got new questions in.
All right, we have new questions in.
Okay, with the controversy that has arisen, we've seen a lot of misinformation. A lot of people think that this is an event to promote sex. So what do you have to say about the misconceptions of what the event is and what it's doing?
Well, there's a whole saying, sex sells. I don't really think sex needs to be promoted. I think it does a pretty good job of promoting itself. That's not what this week is about. This week is about how people are already having sex, and many people aren't doing that safely. We want people to be taking the activities they're already doing and making sure they're being healthy and safe and not harming themselves or anyone else. So I would say this is not about promoting sex. We even have an event on abstinence because we know that this is sex itself does not apply to everyone.
One of the things that has been a turnoff, and I don't know if you addressed it, so I was looking at the questions and everything, is there church involvement with the event?
I don't know if church involvement is the right term, but there are religious groups on campus who are involved with the week and are planning on organizing this abstinence themed event, because we do have a very large Christian population here at ETSU. We want to make sure we are addressing the needs of our population here. So there will be an event sponsored by specifically Christian groups on campus. And we're hoping to get more religious groups involved to kind of defeat that whole stigma that religious groups must not like sex or whatever.
Did you touch on the specific speakers that would be coming in? Or is that something that's nailed down yet?
Yes and yes. We really only have 2 speakers coming in from outside the ETSU community. One is Dr. Jill McDevitt, who is like the world's leading sexologist. Like, if you look into everything she's talked about, it's amazing. I personally follow her on Facebook, and she's such a great like feminist role model and cares so much about gender equality. And I think it's the messages she brings can be really helpful on our campus. And then the other speaker is the CEO of Sister Reach over in Memphis, which is an organization that deals with reproductive justice and specifically communities of color or low-income communities. And they also provide a faith-based perspective in some of their workshops.
Okay, you touched on the feminism aspect. Sometimes feminism, to some people, can be used as a bad word, especially in more conservative areas. What have you done to kind of change the idea of the stigma surrounding both it and the activism of, surrounding Sex Week?
That's an interesting question. So as to what about the feminist aspect of Sex Week and if that may turn people off, I think I'll say what I've said about a lot of people who ask questions about the organization FMLA, the feminist group here on this campus, which is, if you have questions or concerns or aren't clear about what feminism is, just come to an event, check it out. These aren't like radical ideas about killing men or whatever it is people think feminism is about. This is just about decreasing gender inequality, making sure everyone is equal, making sure that really important feminist concepts like consent are discussed, preventing intimate partner violence, looking out for red flags in relationships. The feminist group here on campus, which I am president of, FMLA, over the past few years, we have done an incredible amount of events of which have to do with preventing sexually transmitted infections and unwanted pregnancies and general sexual well-being, because we consider these very important feminist subjects. And I think the problem that people have with feminism is they just don't know what the word means. They don't know what a feminist is. And to that, I would say, check out an event sometime. See for yourself. Make your own judgment. What
would you have to say to and it's predominantly parents, and more conservative parents, who think that it's not the school's place to teach about sex, that they sent their children here to learn, liberal arts and science?
I would say that this is a college, this is a university, this is not a children's school, that everyone at the school, they are adults, they have the right to be making their own decisions, and this is about them and those at ETSU. And that's that. I believe in everyone having the right to make their own choices for their own personal lives.
I believe that about does it. If there's anything else that you'd like to say about the event, anything that you'd like to get across to people who may still be confused about exactly what's going on.
I would just say if you have any questions, let us know, email us. I think that was a major problem with all of the SGA controversy, is rumors and gossip flying around about what this event actually is, when this can all be solved by just send us a Facebook message, email us. Our email is sexweeketsu@gmail.com, and our Facebook and Twitter pages are sexweek@etsu.
Well,
check it out.
Your CrowdRise, do you give the URL for it?
Yes. Once again, that is crowdrise.com/sexweek@etsu.
And then all that information is available on your Facebook and everything?
Yep.
Cool. Awesome. Max, thank you so much for being here with us in the office.